Baila, baila y goza, mi bomba puertorriqueña. Bomba, 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 para siempre.
Hello everyone, welcome back. Charles Walhingford with another cigar video, and this is a cigar and a book. This is my third entry for cigar and a book, and it's starting to add up, and I see a lot of people are liking these books and cigar combinations. And don't forget, I like to put a still aged beverage with this. Today's still aged spirit brandy is known as Armagnac. This is Armagnac Marie Defoe Napoleon. Really good compliment to this cigar. This cigar is the Sobremesa Brulee. A lot of people talked about this cigar, and it is pretty damn good. Dunbarton and Trust make really good cigars, and this is another one of them. Super creamy, super easy to smoke, and I enjoyed smoking this while reading a good book, and that's what's so important. Sit down, relax, put down the phone, close up the laptop, and read a good book. I definitely say we got to get back to some basics and make this country better by doing that. Just by reading a book. And to the book today, as you've seen by the title, is Colin Powell's uh, biography, and that is My American Journey. My American Journey was something that I just really felt strongly about to do this another presentation of cigar in a book. I got a lot out of this book. I learned a lot from this book. I already was a serious Colin Powell, I don't know if you would call it a fan, but I really looked up to Colin Powell a lot, and reading this book made it even more, made the, I guess, the legend of Colin Powell even greater, and somebody that I wanted to emulate and be like, and just take something from a really good person. So, My American Journey spans his late childhood growing up in New York City from parents who were from the West Indies. They're immigrants from the West Indies. It goes into what he did to get up to being in the military, his days of ROTC, attending CCNY, that's the New York, or rather the City College of New York, not Community College of New York, but City College of New York. I learned a lot of people came out of that college, unbeknownst to me. Some really good or really integral people in American history. Then it goes into his time as a young officer, being in Vietnam, and then later on other assignments in other foreign countries, and then going back and forth to D.C., Washington D.C., where he tried to avoid going. He did not like going to D.C. back and forth, but they kept calling him back, and he kept answering the call to come back to Washington D.C. From this book, I picked out three main things that I really, or three or four things that I liked about this book. One of the first things that jumped out to me in this book was how important Alma was to him, and especially in his career. Many decisions came through their discussions. Alma's name was mentioned so many times in this book. Only thing I can think of that was mentioned as much as Alma, or close to Alma, was Army. Army and Alma were the main things mentioned in this book, and it's about him being in the Army. This book does not talk about his time as Secretary of State. The next thing that jumped out at me, I'm going too fast. What I wanted to say about Alma and Colin Powell was that I have started a YouTube channel, a separate YouTube channel, talking about marriage and relationships, and this book would be a pretty good case study to go into how high level people tend to stay married. Good high level people tend to stay married, and I'm not talking about entertainers. It's, well, yeah, entertainers not so much, but other people, the dynamics of being married and being a high level person. All right, the next thing that jumped out to me was real racism that he faced, real racism that happened to him directly. And during this time frame of his life, he dealt with absolute laws and mandates that were in this country, United States, at the time when he was younger, and how he dealt with them. A lot of times these days, this is my personal feeling, a lot of times these days, younger people grasp on there's racism there, and a lot of these things aren't present as much as they, I would say, want them to be. It seems like people want too much of a struggle when people like Colin Powell actually pulled down and tore down racism more than anybody else. Now back to what I was saying with real racism. He was not allowed to go into certain places. He was not allowed to go in restaurants. Or if he was allowed to go in a restaurant, he had to go through the back door. He had to get counseling on how to navigate southern United States when he was what's the word I'm looking for? When he was assigned to different southern United States positions, assigned to positions in the southern United States, and he did it. And you know what he did? He gave people, directly and indirectly, ways of beating racism with competence. He was extremely competent, and it helped me, or reaffirmed how racist this country is not. When to jump ahead, Colin Powell was the highest ranking person that in the United States when he was a four-star general. He was the highest ranking, and he did it faster than anybody else ever. Now, the next thing is to go into being a general. What jumped out to me was how difficult it is to become a general, and how difficult it is to stay a general, and not in a negative way, in a positive way, in a sense, where he was given an opportunity over and over again. People were asking him, hey, did you want to do this job, or you want to be in this, take this assignment, you want to be in politics or anything else, while he was a general. Meaning, people are offering him positions and jobs if he would just get out the military. If you just get out the military, we got something lined up for you right now. And I didn't know that about generals. I should have known, but I didn't know that being a general was difficult on that realm too, or in that realm too. All right. Perfect example. He was considered to run with both Clinton or George Bush. They were considering having Clinton's running mate be Colin Powell, or get rid of Dan Quayle and have him as George Bush's running mate. So things like that were considered for him, or he had to consider being a general in the United States Army. And the last thing that really jumped out to me about this book, when I'm reading along, to see all the great things that he accomplished, all the great things that he was able to do despite of who he was and the times he lived in, was how so many of us look up to the wrong people. And not to discredit any of the people I'm going to reference, but just to look at what they actually did in our lives and how they affected our lives in a tangible way. We didn't celebrate Colin Powell's death the way we celebrate other entertainers and athletes' death. Now, both Prince and Kobe Bryant, that hurt us. It hurt us that we lost them when we did. However, when we lost Colin Powell, we didn't make big deals about it. We didn't. And here's the reality. Prince and Prince and Kobe Bryant, they accomplished a lot, but they didn't have lives in their hands. They weren't responsible for the protection of the United States. And Colin Powell absolutely, unequivocally was. When he was younger, he was in charge of thousands of people. Later on, hundreds of thousands of people. He was an integral part of ending the Cold War. Oh, he was. Absolutely. But he doesn't get that credit, or people don't want to give him that credit. And it bothers me a little bit that we don't give people like him their due. And I hope that doing this review, it will just, if it just means one or two of you, maybe 10 of you, pick up this book again. Pick up this book, check it out, read it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Because a lot of times we forget how important some people are, especially if they're not trying to be somebody over the top. He wasn't looking for fame. He was just trying to do his job, just good for us and good for him. He did his job extremely well, better than a lot of other people. Now, far as anybody who could read this book, if I could really directly talk to anybody who should have this book, if you want to buy this book for somebody else, somebody who is a young minority, black, or whatever, they should read this book and realize what real racism looks like, and that in fact this country will allow you to jump over maybe the hurdles higher, but still jump over these hurdles. Also, if you are going into the military, enlisted in the military, or being commissioned, better yet, commissioned into the military, reading this book would be so beneficial to you. I wish I would have read this book before I went into the Marine Corps as an officer. It would have opened my mind into understanding what else was required of me in the military as an officer. And all in all, this book should be read by anybody who wants to read about a true American hero, especially if the American hero doesn't even care or is not concentrating in trying to be a hero. But he absolutely was a hero, at least to me. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope this entertained you or informed you and motivated you to sit back, have a good cigar, have Sobremesa, have Marie Defoe, and read about Colin Powell. I'm Charles Walhingford, and Colin Powell, My American Journey is how I would spend my money.